Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? An iconic quote from an iconic movie. However, I'm not here to talk about sort of what that quote goes after, which is vanity, but rather instead, I want to talk about identity. Every morning when we wake up, or afternoon or night, depending on your schedule, you walk up, you climb out of your bed, you put your clothes on, and you dress yourself up, and one way or another, you end up in front of a mirror. Bathroom mirror, standing mirror, dresser mirror, if you got one of those. And you look at yourself, and that person that looks back at you, that's you. But if a person were to come over to you and say, who is that person? They point in the mirror and they say, who is that person? How hard would it be for you to answer that? And to be honest, for most people, it's pretty difficult. Even for me, who does all this self-referential podcast mental health thinking. Like, it's pretty difficult to sort of figure out who you are. So my name is John Wynn, and this is the BKTY podcast. It's been quite a long time since an episode has released, but we are thankfully back here for season 2. This is the very first episode. I'm very excited, and it's a bit different this time around because Hallie Wright is no longer the consistent co-host because, she's busy. She's got things to do, but don't worry. She'll be on here for an episode, here and there whenever she can, whenever she's got a gap in her schedule. But mainly it's going to be me kind of talking to myself. But to you, it's gonna feel like I'm talking to you. So that's a plus. And so during this time, this really long hiatus, I had to encounter a really interesting problem in that I had to figure out who I was. Because mental disorders like mine, like depression, it does a sort of a ringer on you. It makes it so almost like it destroys your identity. Because when you think about how you identify yourself, you think about the hobbies that you do, your interests, your passions, your personality, and depression sort of strips all of that away. It makes you not want to climb out of bed. It makes you not interested in the things that you're interested in anymore. It makes you wonder, why exactly should I be doing things? Because I don't feel like doing anything. It's sort of like almost like a sickness. It pulls you. It tears you apart. It makes you feel sort of just like a husk of a human being. And that's terrible. That's a terrible thing. So for a long period of time, I didn't really have an identity because I was too busy struggling with things. And the thing is, this is more common beyond depression. Imagine financial struggles. A mom that has to work, 3 jobs, 2 jobs to provide for their family. And the only thing they can worry about or handle every single day is whether or not they have money to put food on the table and pay the bills. And how do you explore your identity when you're so pressured by these sort of things? And it's a consistent struggle. It's why the mental health of so many people decline, so frequently when they have so many pressures, whether it be mental, physical, financial, social, anything like that. Because it's so, like, identity is sort of almost like, it's sometimes a conscious activity. It's something you have to think about, you have to talk about. Something you have to sort of ruminate about. And you can't do that if you're too busy focused on so many other things. And so I was sort of like thinking about this topic. I was thinking about, what am I supposed to say? What am I supposed to say to people that, struggle with so many other things and don't have time to find their identity? And so I figured I'd just talk about my own experience and maybe that would help. And so I spent a lot of time just sort of stuck. I was unable to sort of figure out what I was doing, so I would watch like TV shows and I would read books and I would look at media and I watch anime and things like that. And I saw these cool characters that were passionate. They believed in the good of people and the power of friendship and things like that. And these were really inspirational characters. So I did what all 13-year-olds and sort of high school kids sort of would dream of. I tried to become them. I embodied their characteristics. Their personality became my personality, and it made me feel great because I was just like, this is how I act. This is how I do things. But as time goes on, you you have to realize that that's just not you, and that's what I eventually did. I realized that like I was just pretending to be someone else. I didn't know who I was, so I needed something to fill the space, and I did that for quite a long time. And then um, over time, as I got better, as my condition got better, I came to terms with it. I talked with people and things like that. I began to realize that an actual personality began to blossom, and it actually surprised me. Like I would have conversations with myself, and I'd be saying like, "Oh, I do that. That's a thing that I do." Like for example, I would like talk with a friend, and when I would meet them, I one day I just found myself hugging them. Like I hugged them immediately. I was very excited, and I would hug them and I would pull them in. And the thing is, like, because of my depression, I was never this excited. I was never this vibrant. I wasn't like jumping out of my seat to go invade someone's personal space and also have that person invade my personal space. So I was just like, no, there's no way in hell I'm doing that. But then as I got better, suddenly I realized I'm a hugger. I hug people, and it makes me happy. And also, like, I really enjoy seeing people that I haven't seen in a while. And I really enjoy meeting new people too. Like there it was this whole animated affair, and I was just like, "Oh, this is me. This is what I do. This is something that I like to do. Is that a piece of my identity? Am I a hugger? And I am, and I still am to this day." And then I realized that okay, if I can surprise myself here, what else is different? And over the course of time, as sort of my condition got better, and I eventually talked to a doctor, I got on antidepressant medication, which has changed my life. Like undoubtedly has changed my life. I realized that there were some days I would wake up and I'd be like, "Who am I?" I'd be like, "What in the world am I doing? What do I stand for? What am I passionate about? What do I do for fun? How would I react to situations? What's my personality?" And now, if any person has ever asked themselves these questions, they're not exactly easy to answer. So it's taken me a very long time to figure out what the answers are. I think I figured out most of them, but I tend to surprise myself quite a bit. So first thing that I realize is that the hobbies that I used to do. So I was an avid reader as a kid. My parents used to have to like pull me out at like 1 a.m. because they would come into my room. I'd be reading a book and they'd say, "Go to bed. It's 1 a.m. It's really late." And I was like, "Okay." They would close the door and I just pull out the book and I read it until I finished it because I loved it so much. And but when I told people that story, they were just like, "Oh, so what books are you reading now?" And I realized I didn't read books anymore during my depressive years. I was just like, "Oh, um, of course I lied because I wanted to maintain the like facade that I'm like a really smart sort of like cultured person. So I'd be like, "Oh, I read like Stephen King or something like that." Not true. Um, and then so quite recently, I was just like, "Okay, so well, I used to be a reader, and then I haven't read in a very long time. So it's just like, do I actually enjoy reading still?" And so I decided to go pick up a book. So I have a bad habit of buying books and not reading them. So I picked up one of these books that I just didn't, I just had off to the side, and I opened it and started reading it. And then I realized, like, pretty soon after that, like 2, 3 hours had passed, and I was still reading this book. And then I was like, "Oh, I'm still a reader." And then I was like, "What else?" I haven't messed with my decks of cards in a while. So if you don't know this, I love playing cards. I have a collection of over like 40 to 50 playing card decks, and I know magic tricks. I know games. I just love. I don't know what it is, but I just love playing with them. And I hadn't touched any of my decks in a while, and it's strange to have such a distinctive, trait and a distinctive collection. Just sitting under my bed because that's where I put it. It's in a drawer under my bed, just there, and I don't use it. I don't use it ever. I used to carry a deck of cards on me every single day on my person. I had it confiscated at school countless number of times. So I went and I just pulled a deck out and I just practiced some tricks, and it was so much fun. I was just like, wow, I actually this was a good time because I was like shuffling the decks because I used to like do that. I did like tricks, I did little like hand flourishes and whatever. I was like, okay, so I still like cards. What else do I do? Um, but the thing is, identity isn't just the things you do. It isn't necessarily just hugging people or playing with cards or things, because humans are this magnificent macrocosm of an infinite number of circumstantial events. There is no other person that can replicate the events and thoughts and things that have happened to generate you as a person. So when I sort of looked at that, I was like, what makes me me isn't that I hug people. It isn't that I play cards. It isn't that I read. It's that those distinctive things with their specific examples combined together are a piece of me. Those things together make me. So I was saying, what else makes me, And then you have to think about your personality. You have to think about what you think about, what you value. And so when I was thinking, I was thinking about like, oh, okay, so what else do I think about? What else do I do? I realized I believe that everyone deserves a second chance. I believe that people should always be kind to each other, kind to themselves. I believe that helping each other is good and not helping each other is bad. I believe that even though the world isn't just, it isn't perfect, it certainly isn't kind to us, we should be kind to it. Because just because bad things happen to you doesn't mean, you can't be the good part of the world that people sort of live for. I realized that I have a lot of mental problems, mental struggles, and as much as I hate to think about that, that is a piece of me. That's a part of my identity. That is a part of who I am. And then I thought about the basic stuff. I identify as male, identify as heterosexual. I'm 5'8", black hair, Asian, glasses. The basic stuff. And so I'm using the weirdest paintbrush on the planet to paint this picture of me in my head. And I'm just thinking, okay, so that's me, right? And then I realized new things surprise me all the time. I'd figure out that I know who I am, and then something new would happen, and I was like, oh, I do that now. That's a piece of me, whether it be good or bad. I had spikes in anxiety, and that was really rough. That was a really rough time for me. But I realized that I'm an anxious person, and by recognizing that, I decided to work on it. And I talked to people, and it's a bit better. Still working on it, but stuff takes time. I also realized that like I really loved origami. It's a very specific thing. Like I just never did it for like ever, except besides like making a crane or two. And then I started doing origami, and I was just like, wow, this is amazing. And I just became an origami enthusiast, and I made so many cranes. I literally had way too many cranes. And so the moral of this whole experience for me was that identity finding and building, it's extremely hard. It's not something that a person can just do sort of in a day. This took me years, months, days, hours of thinking, introspection, journaling to actually figure out even a semblance of who I am. And so when I hear about other people and how they have identity struggles, they feel like they don't know who they are. I get it. And I always tell them that you shouldn't expect to know who you are ever, really, because you will always surprise yourself. There will always be another piece of you, a piece of the magnificent, unique, turbulence, just absolutely, just almost a stained glass window of shards of you. And there's always going to be another color, another piece to place in your puzzle. And so feeling like you're sort of dead-ended, or that you can't, develop, you can't evolve, you can't change, you can't grow past the person that you are, or that you should feel bad that you don't feel like you know who you are. Both of those ideas, they're just harmful to yourself, because the reality is finding out who you are takes a while. And like, it's just, don't focus on the fact that you feel like you're no one, and just figure out why you sort of just can't be yourself. Because no matter whether or not you consciously know what your identity is, you are you. If you do always what you feel like you naturally would do, that is who you are. Your body knows who you are, your mind knows who you are, your spirit even knows who you are far before you do. And that comes to the earlier point. What happens if you can't put in the time? Because you're busy, you're distracted. There's things going on in your life that are too forthcoming. What if your work's really hard? What if your school is really stressful? What if you live in a terrible family situation? What if the friends around you are incredibly toxic? Or what if there's no friends around you? Mental health is so important, and I reiterate this as much as I possibly can, because it prevents us from being ourselves. Because we're too busy fighting. We're too busy waging a war against a billion different things. Too busy, clashing swords to sit down and have a cup of tea and say, oh, who am I? Some people might even say that identity or peace of mind, it's a luxury of the rich, the privileged, the people who don't have to worry. Now, rich is a bit, it is accurate in the case of financial things, but I know plenty of people who are very well off in terms of money, but also struggle through mental things. So, by the way, don't do that. A lot of people have done that to me, because my family happens to make a lot of money. They're just like, oh, because your mom and dad made a lot of money, you've never struggled with anything in your life. And that's objectively not true. But I digress. That's a little pain point for me. But it's a crippling thing, really, quite frankly. And it's a very hard idea to sort of, a very hard problem to tackle. And believe me, I've been thinking about this problem quite a bit, because I was thinking, oh my God, what the hell am I going to say? And the first step, I really genuinely do believe, is to talk to someone. Because when you talk to someone about your problems, you're sharing the burden. You're lessening the weight on your shoulders, and someone else is willingly taking it and sort of weighing themselves down a little bit. Is that bad? Are you a bad person for weighing them down a bit? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because it's never wrong to ask for help, and it's never wrong to help people. So when you do that, when you bring someone over and you tell them about whatever you're facing, you say, my family is really tearing me down. My work is really stressful. I don't know if I fit in at school. I don't know if I'm fit to succeed. I don't know if I can actually achieve my goals. When you do that and you sit with someone and you really talk it out, what that person does is they help you sort of alleviate that stress. They help you they sit down and they say, okay, I'm going to listen to all your thoughts, and all the irrational ones, I'm going to challenge them. I'm going to say, no, don't think like that. Don't do that. And you know why? Because this reason, that reason, this reason. And by doing so, you realize that strength comes with people. The love of the people that care for you are the things that are going to get you through the worst of your life. And it's never a crime to ask for that love, because people are willing to give it. If they truly are good friends, if they truly are good people in your life, they're willing to give that love to you. And you shouldn't ever feel bad for asking for it, because they care about you and you care about them. Now, of course, this isn't going to solve all your problems like overnight. Just talking to someone isn't going to suddenly make your jobs pay you more, but they're going to give you strength, give you hope at least. And with that strength and with that hope, perhaps you can work towards a better sort of outlook. Of course, you should also talk to a professional. Professionals are professionals for a reason. They know the right things to say in that conversation. But it's good to have both conversational, close relationship talks and professional talks because both of them offer a different kind of advice. I would honestly recommend to anyone who's struggling with something, talk to the people you care about, talk to the people that care about you, and talk to the people that are, sort of professionally, they got a degree, a nice plaque in their office. Talk to them too. Because when people are stuck in these terrible situations, the solutions are very rarely easy. Oh, if you have jobs that don't pay you enough, why don't you just go get a job that's better? Oh, if your school program's so hard, why don't you just change to a different program? Why don't you just do something easier? Oh, if your family is so terrible, why don't you just move out? Like, any of those things are simple. Like, any of those things can be done overnight. However, in order to accomplish the changes that would make these situations better, it takes time and it takes effort. And a lot of people, they're gonna come to you disheveled. They're gonna be maybe in tears, and they're gonna say, "I can't do it. I don't have the strength to do it. I'm just human. I'm just a person." And that's absolutely okay. People don't need to be the most magical things on the planet in which they say, "Oh, I can do anything." You don't have to be an anime protagonist. You just have to be yourself. And if you look in the mirror and you say, "I can't do it," you say, I just can't. I don't have it in me." Ask for help. Please, I plead with you, really earnestly, really genuinely, ask for help. Find someone, anyone, even a stranger that is kind. Let them listen to you. Let them talk to you. Let them give you some respite, some kindness, some strength. Because that will save your life. It saved mine countless times. It saved mine countless times. How are you going to hold out to sort of, for example, if your family's terrible, how are you going to hold out until you can make enough money to move out? You can't do that on your own. And you shouldn't have to. There's this idea that everyone should handle the problems by themselves, and it's terrible. It's an awful idea. Because the best part of this planet, of the people that live on this planet, is that we help each other. It is what makes us human. It is what makes us wonderful. The fact that if I feel shitty, I can call up someone on my phone, and that person will want nothing more than to say, "Hey," even if we don't talk, even if we haven't talked in a very long time, they'll say, "Hey, I'll listen to you." Because I asked them. That's it. That's all I had to do. I didn't convince them. I didn't win them over. I didn't bribe them. I didn't open my legs for them. All I said was, "I'm going through something rough. Can you just sit there and listen for a second?" And they just said yes. Don't be convinced that there's no way out. Don't be convinced that you have to bear the weight alone. Because if you do, you'll go where I went a long time ago. A really dark place, a place you never want to come back from. A place where every night when you go to sleep, you don't want to wake up in the morning. It's a place that changes you. It's a place that you never stop seeing when you close your eyes. Don't give up. I know it's hard, but you don't ever have to do it alone. Find someone. There is people out there. Hell, find me. I have my social media links like on the screen. Shoot me a text. I will sit there. I will listen to you. I will give you my phone number so you can call me. Because there's nothing more in this world that I want to see than other people helping each other. Because if they do that, maybe the world can be a little less bleak, a little less terrible. Maybe when I open up my phone, the news isn't all over the place. I started out this episode talking about identity. And I've reached a point where I'm talking about how people should ask for help, how people should help one another, how in order to survive the terrible things this world does to you, we need each other. And you might be saying, well, how do those two things relate? What I'm trying to say is that to the people that are struggling, to the people that aren't sure they're going to make it to tomorrow, I see you, your identity, who you are. I may not know everything about you. I may not know the intricacies of your experience. But if you were to sit in front of me, I would be able to connect my identity to your own. I can see sadness, I can see grief, I can see anger, I can see pain. And I've made it a part of my identity to help people that I see that in any way I can, to be kind to them. And the greatest advice I could give to you, if you want to make a positive change in the world, whether it be big, whether it be small, is to make that a part of your identity too. Look to care for people, to give them the time of day, to see a person who may be smiling on the outside and still ask them if they're okay. To do small things for people, even when you get nothing back. To be there when people need it. Because some of us are fortunate to sort of figure out our identities, craft them in a way that we want to, build them with time and thought, introspection. And some other people are drowning. They're unable to be who they are because they're swallowed up by pain, misery, fear. So those of us that can work, that can move, that can be ourselves, ask yourself if being yourself includes helping other people, being kind, willing to let go of a outburst or cruelty that's said, and being kind anyways. Being able to be there for the people who have no one else to run to. Because by doing so, you give them hope. You give them strength. You give them the possibility of seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. You gain a friend, and so do they. Connect with people. Be with people. That is what makes us wonderful, makes us fantastic. Everyone deserves to be who they are, to live out their identity in the way that they wish. But we won't get that chance unless we be kind to each other, unless we be kind to ourselves. That's all I got. It's a bit long-winded. 30 minutes of me talking to myself for our season premiere. Maybe I should have made it an hour, but who knows. I wish everyone who's listening to this the best of luck. The episode's gonna be more like this. They'll be a bit more personal, a bit more me talking to the void sort of deal. Well, not the void to you guys, but to me, I'm talking to a computer screen. But to you guys, a nice gravelly voice is talking to you. I gotta give myself a pat on the back once in a while. I'm just kidding. I'm not that vain. I'm a modest person, I promise. I want everyone listening to this to sort of listen to my personal experience, to listen to the things I'm saying and say to themselves, maybe I'll give it a shot. Because the reason I'm alive today is because people were kind to me. They took the time to listen to me. They took the time to go out of their way to make my life better. And that's the reason I'm alive today. And my way of giving it back to them is making sure I do it as much as possible. And sitting here today telling you to do it as well. It's been wonderful talking to you guys again. There's many more episodes on the way. And with that, my name is John Nguyen. My social medias are on the screen if you want to give me a follow. I mean, don't worry, I don't really post amazing things, so just a little self promo. But be well, and always be kind to yourself.